Welcome to a very special edition of Mysterious Forces Live. We are at DisclosureCon 2018. We're back here in the press room, and we're doing a pre-recorded interview for you, and you'll be seeing this at a later time, but not too much later. We'll have this on the air pretty quickly. And today, I have Dylan Lewis Monroe on the show, and he has worked out this very complex, complicated map of all conspiracy theories tied together. And it's so complex that he had to design the map in a certain way, and it has to be read in a certain way. And his work is fascinating. He is one of the vendors here at DisclosureCon, and I started talking to him. Dylan, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome.
My first convention and my first vendor booth, my first convention as a speaker, so first of a lot of things, but not my first interview.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You have had other interviews while you were here. Where are you traveling from? Where are you from?
From Cincinnati, Ohio. I lived in New York for 10 years, though, so I'm not purebred Cincinnatian. It was in New York that I got into conspiracies because I was living right below ground zero and got into conspiracies by Googling World Trade Center 7, and that's what led me down the rabbit hole that led to this.
Did you know a lot of people in New York that had experienced 9/11 firsthand?
No, I did not. I don't think I met a single one, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's interesting. Did you visit the site often, or go down and?
I moved there in 2005, and I lived right down there for 2 years, or actually 3 years. So I would walk by that site every day, and
during construction,
had to figure out what actually happened.
Oh, wow. So. Just start from the beginning and assume the viewers aren't familiar with your work and try to explain this.
All right. Well, the first thing I call it is a timeline of the hidden history. So the important thing to know is that it is a timeline that has a linear fashion. If this was a timeline that was all in a straight line, it would be a very long map. And what I've done to keep it down to a rectangle that's the size of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper is condense the period before the 20th century into sort of a zigzag line that goes across the top. I have something else called the chronology chart that shows you with the arrows, but if you go to my website, deepstatemappingproject.com, download the PDF for either the Q key or the Q web. It has this diagram on the back, which has my little essay about it, and it has this chronology chart, which shows you how to read it. Starts in the top right, it kind of goes down 3 little columns to the top center, then you jump to the top right. I think I said the top right the first time. I'm at the top left. Mm-hmm. And then, you go down 3 little columns toward the center again. And then once you're in the top center, after that, it just goes down the center through timelines. So you have about the 1940s in the red area, then about the 1960s and where this purple line goes through, and then 2000s where this orange section is, and then down to the present day, which is labeled as the Trump era on the Q key.
And what's the green section signify that kind of seems to traverse that timeline?
Yeah, all the green is ET, we call it, is how I generalize it. In the early part, it's more like gods, angels, demons, what more they're thought of as. But then in the 20th century, it's really extraterrestrial and secret space program technology labeled in green.
In terms of conspiracies, do you equate them all together? Do you think that UFOs carry as much weight as false flags, and you see them all equally as events?
They're very different. I mean, that's why the QWeb is very diverse. There's government operations, fits in the same category as ETs, and some of those are false flags, but it gets into all different modes of history, especially in the ancient section. It feels very different, like a different category of information, but they are all connected. And what I've discovered in researching this is that a lot of my focus has been on finding the real global power structure, which if you Google global power structure, you find a lot of different diagrams. Most of them are shaped like a pyramid. Sorry, I just flashed an Illuminati symbol, but I'm talking about the global power structure pyramid. Mm-hmm. And there's different interpretations of it, but that's what this triangle near the center is a very abbreviated version of some more complex diagrams you can find of the global power pyramid. And so the idea is that this ruling elite, like the 1% of the 1%, has this occult belief system that goes back centuries, millennium, all the way back to the dawn of mankind, really, that the same people have stayed in power ever since then. And that's why we're in this whole mess we're in now.
And you can trace all of this like the military-industrial complex, and I know that that term gets thrown around casually, and I don't throw it out very often, but it really is the military-industrial complex. I would almost reframe it now in the 21st century as the military-industrial media complex, because consumption of media, whether online or through television or whatever means, has completely infiltrated almost every aspect of our lives. We go shopping in Walmart and we see flat screen monitors that are actually playing live commercials to us. We see live commercials and television on flights now. So media, we're carrying a computer in our purses and in our pockets at all times, and so we are constantly connected to media. It's incredible. So I would change that. I would coin that the military-industrial media complex. Do you think that this is tied to all of that old money, the people who controlled the banks? You know, like Illuminati gets tossed out a lot, but the Rothschilds and all of that old school money, that old money.
Not only is the media owned by the old money, but it's also infiltrated by the intelligence agencies. And so the purple section on here is labeled MK Ultra, but MK Ultra is sort of a cover-all term for mind control. And so media falls in this map under the MK Ultra label, even though it's not technically part of the same exact government program, but it's a form of mind control. And one of the most important operations on here in terms of the public influence is this Operation Mockingbird, which was the CIA infiltrating both newspaper and television media to put propaganda stories in with the true reporting. And as you know, as we've progressed since the formation of the CIA and the founding of this project, it's gone from real media journalism to pretty much complete propaganda coming out of every mainstream news media organization. And so I think what needs to happen now is people need to uptake the citizen journalism a lot more like what you're doing in your YouTube form and what I'm doing with this form. Everyone needs to find what they can do to be their own journalist and inform the people that they know and try to reach as many people as they can with what they have discovered for themselves is the truth.
Absolutely. Do you have a blog on a website where people can find some of your research or what you've written?
My main sharing platform on a day-to-day basis is Instagram. And so there's a huge component of this project that you don't even really see here at my booth, but I do memes like almost every day that I spend a lot of time on Photoshop doing, exposing truth in like a concise, humorous way. So that's what's on my Instagram account. That's my main thing. It's Master Conspiracy on Instagram.
Okay.
Now, you would think it'd be Deep State Mapping Project, but that's too long. So I actually, the term Master Conspiracy came from Comedy Central's spoof about QAnon and about my artwork was in the Comedy Central piece. And they said, there's a fringe of the dark web where a master conspiracy is lurking. And so I took that term and used it for myself, the Master Conspiracy. So that's me on Instagram. And then my main website is deepstatemappingproject.com, where the first thing on that website is the free downloads. And then further down, you'll find all the YouTube videos I've done on different people's channels, because I don't really have my own YouTube channel yet. I might be starting that soon.
Okay.
So you'll find all my interviews, the free downloads, then obviously the products, the posters, T-shirts. And I really encourage people to print these out themselves on 8.5 by 11. There's a 2-sided PDF download, and share it with your friends, share it with maybe your family if you feel comfortable, people that will be open to the information.
Bring it to Thanksgiving dinner, folks.
Exactly.
Bring that along to Thanksgiving dinner and show it to your aunts and uncles and grandma and grandpa, because they love conspiracies. Nothing says Thanksgiving like death and genocide. Oh, wait, Thanksgiving is the result of death and genocide. Never mind. So to scope out beyond this just a little bit, what was the other work you were talking about?
Well, I've done other artworks in the process of this project.
Right.
Actually, so I released the first version of this on New Year's Eve. It was the black and white version. It kind of went viral. It went pretty viral, but since then it's gone quadruple viral. Then I released the color version about a month later. And then I had a few different meetings with people. I had one meeting in Vegas and one meeting in Cincinnati where a lot of other people, and I was getting, DMs and emails, people feeding me more information about this. Mm-hmm. So it became kind of like a collective consciousness accumulation of information. And so I did a huge update to this a couple months after I released the first version. I mean, there was updates like every week pretty much, but
right.
A big update came about 2 months after the first version where I really revised the early timeline. And in that process of getting all that information of the pre-20th century conspiracy information, I created these other artworks, first called the Sephiroth map, and now it's called the Cult of Baal map, which really follow the elite occult belief system all the way back to its origin, either with the pharaohs or with Atlantis, however you want to look at it.
Right. That's amazing. I know what it was. The question escaped me, but it came back. The QAnon stuff. What's your take on the QAnon briefly?
I've been following QAnon since pretty much the beginning. I think I found out about it maybe 10 days after it started. So I've really followed it, and there's just been so many confirmations that QAnon actually is connected with President Trump and the American military that there's been so many confirmations. I feel like it is a legit phenomenon and legit information coming out of it, although some of it might be disinformation at the same time. It might be a negative slap at the same time, but it definitely is connected with the current presidential administration.
Yeah, do you think that the Trump presidency has changed conspiracy at all, or changed the nature of how the public is perceiving conspiracies?
Completely. I mean, QAnon coming onto the scene has brought conspiracy into not the mainstream. Well, it has since July. It's been in the mainstream, but it's just become so much more popular. I mean, I started this project in early 2017, and I shared a few things early on then, and people weren't interested. But because of the QAnon phenomenon and Trump, who had endorsed conspiracies and even been on InfoWars,
right?
So many more people are interested. Like during the election cycle, when President Trump went on InfoWars, I was like, it's a new era. I mean, not saying I love him or anything, but just like, this is a huge change. This is a massive shift in what's going on.
It is a massive shift, and I wonder. I think Alex Jones kind of dug his own hole, so to speak. He's responsible for what he says and does. But InfoWars was given unprecedented access to the White House and to Trump. I hear there were back channels between Alex Jones and Trump, and that helped feed into Alex Jones. I almost wonder if the social media outlets and the mainstream media in general didn't punish Alex Jones more for his connection with Trump than even what he had said, because he had really kind of been saying the same thing for years and going on and on and on about it, and no one said anything all that time, and then suddenly he gets a connection to President Trump, and he starts to get under the microscope a little bit by the mainstream media, and then all of a sudden Alex Jones is demonized. And please understand, I'm not really an Alex Jones fan. He has said a lot of things that I disagree with, and I'm not in that camp. But I also believe that if a person believes in the First Amendment, that you must be willing to support and even defend speech that offends you and defend people that you do not agree with. And I don't agree with Alex Jones, but Alex Jones has a right to speak.
It's a little fear-mongering, but he does have a lot of good information, especially his legacy is I mean, he got so many people into conspiracies to begin with that he can do whatever he wants now, and he still has a great legacy, unless he really screws up.
Right. No, I agree with that. And there were things that he had said earlier in his career that I agreed with, and things that were easier to go along with. But in my opinion, he kind of started to go sideways a little bit in recent years in terms of his content. So do you actually go on the dark web and interact with some of these QAnon sources? Have you ever done that?
I don't exactly navigate 4chan and 8chan myself. I've tried, but I've been given even a lesson, but I can't really... I get my QAnon from secondhand sources like Jordan Sather on Destroying the Illusion, and then at this point I'm following so many Instagram accounts that are covering QAnon that I see his posts pretty much in real time on Instagram.
Okay. That's cool. So you just follow the updates and...
Yeah, I mean, I also have been looking on the platforms that share it, qmap.pub, there's a few other websites that make it more accessible than 8chan itself, and that's where I get the updates from. And the app, which is no longer available. I downloaded it in time, Q-Drops on the Apple Store. That was a rare gem that I got just before it was deleted.
Oh, that is too cool. You know, the term conspiracy theory was put forth by the CIA in 1967, and they wanted to address the JFK conspiracy people, and that's how they started to malign the people who wanted to investigate JFK's death more thoroughly. And
that's kind of why I call it the map of the hidden history, because conspiracy has that connotation. But whether you want to call this the hidden history or the master conspiracy, or I like the term Rosetta Stone of conspiracies, all are very applicable.
Yeah. Is there a conspiracy in here that ties all the presidencies together? Or a thread that ties conspiracy from presidency to presidency?
Well, I think the closest thing to that would be the Merovingian bloodline, which is addressed in Fritz Springmeier's book, The Bloodlines of the Illuminati, which I own and I've browsed, but I haven't read the whole thing. So once I read that whole thing, I'll know a lot more about all the different elite bloodlines that are running the world, or maybe running from the people who have taken over the world from them right now.
So, switching gears just a little bit on the personal front, your knowledge of this subject is so deep and it's so comprehensive. I'm just wondering, what were you doing in your life and your career before you got into this and really threw yourself into this? Because obviously you've done a whole lot of work here.
Yeah. My background was in graphic design and fashion design, so I wanted to do something where I could do my own art and put it on t-shirts, was always like my goal. And this was my second sort of t-shirt brand, or my art, like official art project as officially trying to do art for galleries. And so, yeah, I just combined my interest from my personal life, which was conspiracies, with my professional skills of being a graphic designer and a fashion designer. And it became a very good combination.
Cool. And we're at the end of our 30 minutes. 30 minutes goes so fast on this show, but it also makes for great conversations. Can you tell folks again where to find your work and where to find your merchandise? Because you have t-shirts and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing one. This is the Sephiroth map t-shirt. So my main website right now is deepstatemappingproject.com. And free downloads on the main page. There's also a page called Info, where that will link to pages for my individual artworks, including this one and this one. It's on my personal website, but the address will change, but you won't know the difference. But there's information and essays about them on that website. And then on Instagram is my other main platform, Master Conspiracy on Instagram, Deep State Mapping Project on the web.
Awesome. Are you going to be making any appearances at conventions in the near future?
This is my first convention I've been invited to, but since I have figured out how to set up a merch booth and speak to a crowd, I think I'm going to have to start investigating more like UFO conventions and disclosure conventions in the future. This is really my scene for sure.
Cool. Awesome. Dylan Lewis Monroe, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
This is important information. Everyone check this out. This is incredible. And the work that Dylan has done it's deep. It's deeper than the deep state, and he's going to bust them out. So thank you for watching this special episode of Mysterious Forces Live. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit those alerts. Thank you so much.
Smash like.
Thank you very much. Smash it. Bye.